Fact-checking the fact-checkers. You may have seen the Jonathan Swan interview with Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I could barely watch it. I could not handle Jonathan Swan's attitude. Oh man, it was mind-numbingly infuriating. A lot of people are saying that Donald Trump did terribly in this interview. And guess what? He did. Donald Trump did not do well at all. He had terrible answers. I only watched a few of these clips and I was just like, wow, Trump didn't do a good job. But guess what? It doesn't matter. People aren't voting for Donald Trump because he's a master debater. They're not voting for him because he has all the answers on the hotspot. They're voting for him because of the problems of the Democrats. They're voting for him for the things he has talked about and has supported, not the things that journalist Jonathan Swan would catch him on. Now, Donald Trump made a ton of mistakes. Look, when it came to COVID, Trump should have just said to Swan, I understand the numbers are bad. Absolutely. I mean, my heart goes out to the families, to these people. We're trying our best. I mean, trust me when I say this, but you do need to recognize that at the state level, you have governors, you have mayors, you have senators, you have local politicians that are the ones dealing with this in your communities. And at the federal level, there isn't a lot we can do to change what these local politicians do. That should have been Trump's answer. Now look, fine. It's easy for me to armchair debate a journalist, but I will tell you what I could not stand. Jonathan Swan, Snooty. No, you're wrong. What? No. I'll tell you what, man. Some people have said that this is not going to move any voters. I disagree. I think there'll be some people that look at Trump and they roll their eyes, but those people probably already don't like Trump. Because like I mentioned, the people who support Trump do it because they think he defends them. And he does. Trump stands up he stands up for this country. And there are people who like that he's saying it. There's some people who don't like the way he talks. But ultimately, there are people who like Trump and trust him. But I will tell you what I can't stand. It's the elitist, snooty media. Their behavior, their attitude, I'm smarter than you. This interview rang so similarly to when they ragged on Trump for eating a well-done steak with ketchup. I kid you not. It was back in the 2016 cycle. Donald Trump eating a well-done steak with ketchup? What stupid peasants would eat trash food like this? And it infuriates me. It infuriates me. Perhaps I never should have ended up at any of these media companies. I don't fit the bill. I'm not some upper class progressive whose parents paid their bills while I lived in New York so I could intern at one of these mainstream media companies. I'm somebody who was an entrepreneur who built something and then took an offer for a company. So my attitude came from a different place. It came from the gutter. It came from the working class. And I saw how these people act and I see how these people act and I cannot stand them. They think they're smarter than you. They're the arbiters of truth. They know all of the answers. And you're just so dumb. Oh, what was that, Trump? You're looking at case numbers. You're wrong. I can't stand the snooty attitude. I'm sorry. When they talked about Trump with a well-done steak with ketchup, you know what I thought of? I thought of back when I was a kid and we got the garbage T-bones from Walmart and we cooked them well done and slopped ketchup on it. Every so often, we got to have a good piece of meat when my family could afford it. But we weren't rich. No, we were lower class, lower middle class, depending, on a good day. And sometimes we get lucky and we would have a nice cut of meat. So when I saw Donald Trump eating a well-done steak with ketchup, I didn't care. I understood he was at a fancy restaurant, but the media ripped him to shreds. And you know what regular people heard when they saw that? They're sitting there eating their well-done steak from Walmart with ketchup. And they see on the news them mocking Trump for it. And they're going, that's how I eat my steak. You know why we used to eat these steaks well done with ketchup? Because they're cheap cuts. Okay, it's not the best meat in the world. Now, my family did their best, and periodically my dad would come back with some excellent, choice cuts of the finer filet mignon, but that was a rare occasion. So sometimes you get that treat. Not like these upper class kids whose parents pay their bill so they can live in New York City with no salary and no wages, an unpaid intern at the New York Times. That's why I can't stand these journalists. So they produce this big list of all the things Trump is wrong about. And of course, they're wrong too. They're right about some things. Trump was wrong about a lot of things. But I just needed to get that off my chest, man. I couldn't watch it. This dude, you know what, man? You know who won this interview? It's Jonathan Swan. Okay, Mike Cernovich tweeted out the Social Blade metrics for Swan, and he is skyrocketing in followers. Yeah, I'm sure the resistance types who love the ivory tower and love watching these snooty elitists snoot their way through an interview probably loved it. Look at him smack down Trump with his condescending demeanor. I couldn't stand it. It was annoying. Trump came off as, in my opinion, inept and unprepared. But so what? So what? I can't blame the guy for not being good at doing interviews. I just say, wow, Trump looks bad. But you know what I can absolutely hate? Is elitists in media who just act like they're better than you. That's why I couldn't take it. I just could not watch past a few minutes. I watched a couple of these clips and I was done. Here's what CNN says. Jonathan Swan, a reporter for Axios, has revealed the magic words that expose President Donald Trump's lies for what they are. Who? What? How? No. They show you just how awful this interview was. They say that most of the people who interview Trump are right-wing sycophants who have no interest in challenging him. Oh, shut up. Chris Wallace interviewed Trump. They had a decent back and forth. Trump looked bad on some things, good on some things. People didn't like Chris Wallace in some regard, but that was an interview at least. Chris Wallace got some things wrong. Trump got some things wrong. I appreciate that conversation, and I think Trump is brave for sitting down for these things. What did we get from Swan? Take a look at this. Trump says, there are those that say you can test too much. You do know that. Who says that? Trump says, just read the manuals, read the books. Manuals, what manuals? Trump says, read the books, read the books. What books? Swan was not engaging in any real conversation. He was playing resistance adversary. Who? What? Why? When? How? You know what you need to say? Your goal as a journalist is to clarify statements. When Trump says there are those that say you can test too much, you do know that. Guess what? That's true. It has been said by many people, many pundits, many journalists, many researchers point out the very obvious statistical fact that if you do a ton of testing, you will display a rapid increase in the amount of total cases. And that if you don't test at all, you'll be like, look, we have no cases. It's a numbers game. And there are many people who says it. Guess what? Am I going to single out individuals who have said it? No, that's ridiculous. And Trump could have done better and said, excuse me, you want me to name all of the pundits, journalists, and experts and statisticians who have said more testing results in more cases? That's frankly absurd. But Trump, perhaps he's not a good orator. I don't care. What I don't like is this stupid, what? Who? Huh? Come. Snooty seventh grade, what is it, like a 10-year-old girl snooty in the playground? Sorry, man. So here they basically point out, congratulations. I thought it was awful. The smug look. I was talking to a friend who hates Trump, and they were like, what was up with that guy? His face, man. And I'm like, I know. You can tell I'm really riled up. I can't stand these people, man. That was not an interview. Chris Wallace was an interview. Good on him for calling out Trump and doing a good job of it. Got some things wrong. And Chris Wallace went on to then call out Joe Biden. Good. Let me run through these points they say about Trump as quickly as I can. Here's the false claims they highlight for Trump. And guess what? Many of these are CNN lying. Surprise, surprise. An incident in Portland when Swan mentioned disturbing footage of people in fatigues beating a Navy veteran. Trump said no repeatedly and then said fake news. There was nothing fake about that. I'll tell you what it is. Trump is saying no, he's not going to engage. What happened was there was a fire. People were being dispersed, and a Navy veteran refused to move. Did Trump say it never happened? He said no repeatedly and said fake news. You know what I see when I read that because I don't trust CNN? Trump is referring to the narrative, the framing of these guys just randomly beating somebody. No, they were beating a guy. They did hit him several times because he wouldn't disperse, and there's a fire right next to them. You can call it morally wrong and criticize them for it, but this is false framing. They just want to falsely frame what Trump is trying to say. And I will give the benefit of the doubt to everybody except CNN. NBC in Portland. Trump claimed Lester Holt's NBC misleadingly depicted the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler, as a friend of the protesters. He was. CNN says, actually, the protesters were calling for his resignation. So what? Mayor Ted Wheeler went out and joined them and tried to placate them, and yes, has been very friendly with them, arguing on their behalf. It doesn't mean they like him, but he is friendly to them. The Portland courthouse. This one's I love. They say Trump claimed it was a $600 million building. In fact, the courthouse reportedly cost $129 million in the 90s. By today's number, that's only $200 million, except for the escalation of property values, you morons. So Trump said it was $1 billion building. It could be. Based on the value of it today to build, not what you'd inflate the cost from 120. It's just so dumb. Penalties for courthouse damage. I love this one. Trump says we have a 10-year rule. You knock it down, you try and knock it down, you get 10 years. So like, actually, the law has been around for a long time. It's not new. And the maximum penalty is 10 years. Yes. And Trump says the rule is they push for 10 years. Trump claimed we have cases of coronavirus because of the testing. That's true. If you don't test anyone, you will show no cases at all. Get it? Many countries were criticized for this. So the U.S. is doing a ton of testing, more than many other countries, so the numbers are going up. You want to argue the morality of it? That's fine. I'm telling you the fact. That's all that matters. South Korea's death toll. Trump was wrong about this. That's fine. U.S. presence in Afghanistan, and Trump was wrong about this. Trump claimed we're largely out of Afghanistan, but Swan mentioned that the numbers are largely the same. So Trump is wrong. Wow. How about that? Trump's 2016 margin. Trump accidentally says 223 instead of 232. I think that's so dumb to call it. What they call it? False claims. Come on, man. You see the game they play? Trump's lying. Trump's making false claims. No, Trump's just not the best orator, to put it mildly. Trump argued that absentee voting is fair, but other mail-in voting is not. They say there is no real difference. Wrong. With absentee ballots, you request an absentee ballot. And many states are trying to implement mail-in voting where they just send out ballots. I know, because I've got one sitting in front of me that no one requested. CNN, come on, do your job. Trump claimed he put a ban on China and a ban on Europe. He imposed pandemic travel restrictions on both China and Europe, but neither was a full ban. Oh, now see, they're arguing semantics. You know what? I'm not going to read this. I'm done. Okay, you get the point. This is why I can't stand the media. And you know what? It's why I don't want to work there. And it's probably why so many of you can't stand them either. Because down in the gutter, in the working class, we understand real conversations. We understand the imprecise nature of language very often, so we give the benefit of the doubt. But you know what I can't stand? The snooty attitude of the know-it-all journalists who think they're better than you. I will never feel good about that. And so you know what? This interview, it shows me that Donald Trump is fallible. I already knew that. So what? Mike Cernovich pointed this out when he was tweeting out Jonathan Swan's Twitter numbers. No one who wanted to vote for Trump is changing their position because of this interview. In fact, for me, I just hate the media that much more. I'll leave it there. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.